available for anybody to see on YouTube.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us today. I'm really excited to be back here to talk with you all and to be here with a lot of partners on Three Squares Vermont Awareness Day. So again, my name is Joanna Doran. I live in Winooski, and I am the Local Food Access Director with NOFA Vermont, or the Northeast Organic Farming Association.
Door open.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're open.
So today, I'll talk with you about a bit about Three Squares Vermont, also known as SNAP, and the ways that we collectively come together through many food security programs to meet the needs of Vermonters and to support Vermont farmers. So we're here today with our partners and neighbors for Three Squares Vermont Awareness Day to ask for your support on several requests that together will move us closer to a food secure Vermont while supporting our Vermont farmers. So first, we're asking for your support for NOFA Vermont's request of $500,000 in base funding to strengthen Vermont farm viability and address food security by sustaining two proven programs, Crop Cash Plus and Farm Share. Pass legislation to instruct the state to opt into the SNAP Restaurant Meals Program and appropriate $75,000 to cover restaurant startup costs and $100,000 for a staff position within DCF to administer the program. Support the request for $5 million in base funding for the Vermont Food Bank to be prepared when disasters strike our neighbors in towns across Vermont, to purchase and distribute food, and to support the network of community-based food shelves and meal sites. And finally, support V4A's request for an additional $2 million in base funding and general funding for home delivered meals for older Vermonters or Meals on Wheels, including the option to draw down additional matching funds from the Global Commitment Investment. So first, I want to share some background on SNAP, or Three Squares Vermont, and how it impacts Vermonters and farmers. The federal program, SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is known as Three Squares Vermont in Vermont. It's intended to help people buy groceries so that they can get the food that they need and want. This program is administered in Vermont by the Department of Children and Families and the Economic Services Division of the Agency of Human Services. In Vermont, people can earn up to 185% of the federal poverty line to qualify for SNAP benefits. So for a family of four, this means monthly earnings of $4,810. Or annual earnings of roughly $57,000. Again, that's for a family of four. Benefit levels are scaled based on income and monthly expenses, and they can be as low as $1 a month. Three Squares Vermont benefits come on an EBT card that look like debit cards. So a trip to the grocery store is basically the same for folks with an EBT card. They can use those cards at the cash register. And they can also use them at any authorized retailer, including farmers markets. There are over 40 across the state that accept SNAP benefits, and also farm stands and many CSA farms accept them as payment as well. Each month, Three Squares Vermont keeps roughly $13 million in our state economy. And this supports our local farmers, growers, businesses, and entire community. In the first half of this fiscal year, at least $130,000 of Three Squares Vermont was spent just at farmers markets alone. At NOFA Vermont, we work to maximize the amount of Three Squares Vermont or SNAP dollars that are spent with our local farmers. And we do this through our food access programs like Crop Cash and Farm Share, which we've talked a little bit about before. We know that Vermont's food security depends on a viable agricultural economy. And these programs provide vital income to the people growing the food that we all need. In Vermont, about 65,000 individuals or nearly 40,000 households receive SNAP benefits each month. While Three Squares Vermont effectively reaches the most low-income folks in Vermont, we know that the program only reaches about 40% of those eligible for a variety of factors. Since the end of the pandemic government support, the number of people at risk of hunger is rising every year. While Three Squares Vermont is our most effective anti-hunger program, the monthly benefits are not enough for many, and for some, this program is out of reach altogether. So in a high cost of living state like Vermont, it's really important that we have other programs to supplement either what people are getting through the Three Squares Vermont program or supplementing when they're not able to access that program at all. Three Squares Vermont is just one part of the picture. It's not designed to do everything. We need to make sure that every part of the safety net is in place so that people can get the food that they need and want. And this includes supporting NOFA Vermont's food security programs, the Vermont Food Bank programs, and meal programs for older adults. You'll hear today from a farmer, a farmer's market leader, and a community member, and it sounds like potentially multiple community members that will all share inspiring stories about how these programs have impacted their lives. The real message we want to convey to you today is that when we all work together, we can ensure that that Vermont, everyone in Vermont has the food that they want and need at all times. Legislators have a critical role to play in making policy decisions that ensure food security for all and support people and farmers in Vermont. Particularly while we're recovering and dealing with record high inflation, catastrophic effects of flooding, and the end to pandemic government support, these programs that we're talking about today are particularly critical. When the state of Vermont invests in meaningful support for food security, the positive impacts are felt broadly. The policy choices in front of you today are things that will benefit everyone who lives here. So again, these actions that you can take are to support NOFA Vermont's request for $500,000 in base funding to support Farm Share and Crop Cash Plus programs, pass legislation to instruct the state to opt into the SNAP Restaurant Meals Program, support the $5 million request in base funding from the Vermont Food Bank, and support V4A's request for an additional $2 million to support their meals for older adults. So thank you so much for your time. Before I pass it off, are there any questions?
Representative Buckle.
Yeah, I was taking notes and then I realized I'm not sure if I got the right number down. You were talking about how much money is kept in our local economy every month. And I wrote down 13 million, but I think that's I have a number.
I believe that's annually.
Okay.
Oh, that's each month. Thank you, Carrie.
So that is right. $13 million is spent each month and that keeps that money in track. It seemed, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Representative Nelson.
Thank you, Chair. Universal school meals. Where do we line up on this?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
This is, from the retail side, is participation voluntary? Because, I go in gas stations where they'll say not taking EBT cards.
Yes, so a retailer has to apply to be authorized for the program. There are certain rules about what the retailer has to offer that would make them eligible or not to accept SNAP benefits, but it is an opt-in program.
Did you say there were 40 or so farmers markets? Maybe we'll hear more about that, but is that right?
There are about 40 farmers markets that both accept SNAP and crop cash benefits. There are a number of additional farmers markets that just accept SNAP benefits, but not crop cash, so over 40.
over 40. All right. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. I have on my agenda, Andrea listed next. And Andrea is joining us by Zoom. If you'd like to, if you'd like to say a few words, Andrea, please do.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having Zoom as an option. I woke up sick today. Hello, everyone, and thank you for your time today. My name is Andrea Otto, and I am a resident of Peacham, and I am here on behalf of the Caledonia Farmers Market Association, which operates 2 farmers markets in southern Caledonia County, in the towns of Danville and St. Johnsbury. I am here today to ask you to support NOFA Vermont's request for $500,000 in base funding to strengthen Vermont farm viability and address food security by sustaining 2 proven programs, Crop Cash Plus and Farm Share. The Crop Cash coupons match 3 Squares Vermont benefits dollar for dollar up to $10. So if a person takes $10 out of their 3 Squares Vermont account, they also get an additional $10 in Crop Cash coupons to spend, and the customer receives the $10 from their 3 Squares Vermont EBT card in the form of wooden tokens that can only be spent on food purchased at the farmer's market. The Crop Cash coupons, which can only be used to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables, act as an incentive, effectively doubling the purchasing power of the 3 Squares Vermont benefits. Crop Cash provides currency to purchase fruits and vegetables and frees up money for other staples like eggs, meat, milk, or bread. Not only does this encourage healthy food choices, but it brings in a customer base that does not always consider the market as an accessible option. With the $500,000 in base funding from the state of Vermont, Crop Cash could allow folks to add meat and eggs to their purchases as well. I would like to share my experience with the Crop Cash program and how it has made our farmers markets better by providing more access to local food and supporting local farmers and small food producers. I assist the St. Johnsbury Farmers Market on Saturdays from April through October. And the market is located right in the heart of our downtown in a parking lot that is owned by the town of St. Johnsbury. For 50 years, the farmers market has been an essential resource, providing residents of St. Johnsbury and surrounding towns with a place to buy locally grown food and a way to pay those farmers and food producers directly for those goods. The farmers market is not only benefiting local health and the local economy, it's also building social capital. As many of you know, farmers markets are very social events. They are places for community members to talk to each other, talk to their farmers, ask questions about how to prepare a new vegetable or how to cook a new cut of meat. Much of this community building takes place at the 3 Squares Vermont and Crop Cash table, set up under a hand-painted sign made by one of the farmers and her children saying, "Welcome to the farmers market." The farmers market purchased a card reader and pays for card transaction fees. NOFA Vermont provides the Crop Cash coupons and handles reimbursing the market for the wooden tokens used as currency when folks use their EBT cards. We have a mother and daughter that come to the market, and the daughter brings a new recipe with her. After getting their wooden tokens in Crop Cash, the daughter makes her way around the market, clutching her new recipe, learning how to cook, how to purchase local food, and also learning about what foods grow in which season here in Vermont. We have farmers who rely on 3 Squares Vermont to feed their own families, and many of those folks are happy to spend some of those dollars right at the market, literally spreading the wealth and keeping federal dollars right here. Some of the folks who use the Three Squares Vermont and Crop Cash program at our market are seniors. In downtown St. Johnsbury, we have a number of senior housing apartments that are within easy walking distance to the farmers market. Many of these folks don't have their own transportation, and there are no grocery stores downtown, so the farmers market is providing an essential service to them. In the fall, many of them start using their crop cash almost entirely for winter squash, onions, and potatoes, things that will store for the winter so they don't need to go out as often or have to arrange transportation for frequent grocery store trips. In conclusion, the farmers market has benefited tremendously from this important work by NOFA Vermont. Through this partnership, we are providing access to healthy food to our friends, neighbors, seniors, and families with small children, keeping federal dollars here in our communities, directly impacting our most local economy, our small farms and food producers. Please support NOFA Vermont's request for $500,000 in base funding to strengthen Vermont farm viability and address food security by sustaining two proven programs, Crop Cash Plus and Farm Share. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Andrea. Let's see if there are any questions from the committee. Representative O'Brien.
Just a clarification, Andrea, and we're doing it. Wherever you went. What's the range of foods you can buy with Crop Cash Plus? Because I know that Crop Cash is produce, fruits and vegetables. If it's expanded to Crop Cash Plus, what can you buy with that?
Sure. So that would essentially just expand what their EBT. So an EBT card is good for grocery items, but that it doesn't cover prepared food items or alcohol. So the Crop Cash Plus would expand so that folks could, in addition to fresh fruits and vegetables, they could also purchase bread, eggs, meat, dairy, things that they would normally use their EBT card for.
And processed food like cheese or yogurt and things like that, right?
Sure. Yep.
It's Andrea, is Crop Cash a federal program? Does it exist in other states? If states want to participate, or is it unique to Vermont?
Answer that.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, so Crop Cash is majority federally funded through a USDA grant that other states do participate in. And we do need to provide a local match for that federal grant as well. Crop Cash Plus program, which includes items that Andrea just mentioned that are beyond the restrictions of the federal grant, is something that a few other states have implemented if they have received state funding as well. But that expansion is not federal.
that's solely state. But the Crop Cash program is a program that we choose to participate in. And by contributing a state match, we are drawing down federal dollars. Otherwise, we would be leaving on the table,
Exactly.
so to speak.
So what was the budget say last year? Like how much did we draw down from the federal government?
So let me get the number right. I believe it was $100,000 that we drew down from federal funding each year through the Crop Cash program, where we provide a minimum of about $60,000 or $70,000 from the state.
So it's not a 50-50, it's somewhere.
Yeah, it's wonky the way that it works out, but it's really a great deal for the state essentially because a lot of the administrative costs are covered through that federal grant. And then by adding on, say, Crop Cash Plus, we're already getting the infrastructure of the Crop Cash program that's been set up and just kind of building off of it with the incentive funds, the Crop Cash Plus funds that the state would provide.
Can any, like Hunger Mountain, could they participate in Crop Cash if they wanted to?
That's a great question. So there is an association of co-ops that has looked into doing a similar program. And I think right now I would have to check on where they are with that. Currently, Nova just works with farmers markets and some farm stands.
English Longer for the record, I was just downstairs in House of Commerce and the co-ops testified down there. And they said what they do is anybody who has a SNAP card, they give them 10% off. Any SNAP eligible item. So that's the program that they're implementing just on their own.
Can you remind us what we ended up doing last year in the budget for these programs?
So the House Agriculture Committee, I believe recommended what we asked for, which was $478,500. What we ended up getting through the budget was $300,000.
And was that enough to cover the plus piece?
That was the piece that we didn't have enough funding for. So it covered crop cash, and we were able to draw down federal funds. And it supported our farm share program, but it was not enough to cover crop cash.
Then I'm going to keep going since I don't see any other hands. Was the program oversubscribed? I mean, we're in the year still, I guess, but is there a feeling that the $500,000 would cover whatever demand there would be from Vermonters?
Yeah, so the idea is $500,000 is what we need to sustain the level of crop cash demand and to have the crop cash plus program. So that extra $200,000 is really what we need for the crop cash plus expansion.
All right. Good. Andrea, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nope. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so next, yes.
Can I ask if Francis had 2 minutes to talk, if he's not on your schedule, but you didn't offer?
Yes.
So if you don't mind, if he could have 2 minutes, because then he needs to go down to the press conference.
That's okay, yeah.
Francis, would you like to take the chair and for 2 quick minutes, let the committee know what you would like them to know? You'll have to introduce yourself.
I'm Francis Beveridge. I'm 71 years old, and during COVID, I kind of lost work and became homeless. Through Capstone mainly has supported me to get a living place and food, and has provided a healthy way of living. And I'm very grateful and thankful for food banks and help bringing my health back into a good state of mind and heart. And to keep it simple, I'm just really hopeful for more openings or knowledge for those in need, who I've run into, who I am like advocating to reach out for places such as Capstone and other food banks and medical health, have doors open for people who are in need instead of being homeless and out in the cold as they are still doing out there. And I would like to say that the help that I've had, I couldn't be here today without. I just want to keep it simple and know that I'm very grateful and healthy now. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Would you mind, Francis, would you mind taking a question?
Yes, oh, I'm sorry.
I just wondered, how did you make that connection with Capstone? Did they, or did you reach out?
I got involved with the hotel voucher, which got me out from living the ground and in a tent. And And through that, I learned about Capstone. I learned about food banks. I learned about, finding a way to go to clinics that could be helpful for my health. And I'm learning to reach out even more so because after being here and through a lot of the people I've met here today and last time I've been here, it's generated a more knowledge for myself that I'm also sharing with other people who are in need. And, I'm volunteering and trying to help others that have been in my position or following it, or even more so. And it's, like I said, I'm very grateful and I'm becoming more knowledgeable and I want to be more involved in helping others. And you all are doing a great job. And I feel that we can still do more.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you. Yeah. And thank you for sharing your.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Christine. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the opportunity to testify on the importance of the Vermont Farm Share Program, Crop Cash, and Crop Cash Plus. My purpose for being here today is to ask you all to please support NOFA Vermont's request for $500,000 in base funding to strengthen Vermont farm viability and address food security by sustaining these two proven programs, Crop Cash and Vermont Share Program. My name is Christine Burke from Blue Heron Farm in Grand Isle, Vermont. Our farm is a diversified, certified, organic, first-generation farm that helps feed folks in Grand Isle, Chittenden, and Franklin counties. We have been farming since 2004. We came to farming for food security for ourselves and our community. Our farm is founded in social justice, so all can eat, because everyone needs to eat. In my previous life, I was a school social worker with children and families, and one of the #1 challenges I found to be facing families was food insecurity. Today, our family and farm continue our mission to feed folks from all aspects of life, regardless if they can pay or not. In 2006, we became a participating CSA farm for the Vermont Farm Share Supported Shares program through NOFA Vermont. This supported farm share program helps subsidize CSA shares for Vermonters. This program brings down the cost of shares for a limited number of families who really need it and desire clean local food. This program also makes it more feasible for farms such as ours to provide this important source of local food to these families. While we never turn anyone away from access to what we grow, we can better afford to grow the food and extend our generosity to a greater number of Vermonters by participation in the Vermont Farm Share Program. We have about 80 CSA shares that we offer to our community each year, and anywhere from 10 to 25 families receive some sort of financial assistance. We have a sliding cost scale since 2005 for our CSA, Community Supported Agriculture, where folks pre-buy for veggies in the winter and then get 18 weeks of veggies from summer through fall. You can get more information about our CSA and how it works on our website, blueheronfarmvt.com. In spring of 2020, we introduced a Pay What You Can share during the height of the pandemic. This is where we could help, where grocery store shelves were empty. Local Vermont farmers could provide food and thus stability. These shares are exactly what they are. You pay what you can afford, $10, $100, or even $0. There are always extra veggies on a farm, and there are always folks who can pay a little extra in donations. We continue this share today in these uncertain times. Folks still need to eat, and local farmers can provide and create community. Weekly veggie shares are picked up at our farm in Grand Isle and delivered to several sites in Franklin and Chittenden County. One such site is at a home of a longtime CSA member and psychotherapist who coordinates delivery to other families, including some of her own clients, who access the Farm Share Program and our sliding scale program through our CSA. I told her I was testifying today in front of all of you, and she wrote me the following. A few highlights from the individuals and families who have benefited from that resource sharing of Blue Heron Farm are a young mother with a preschool-aged child whose family receives a donated share told me in a recent session that while they want to expose their picky eater to a wider variety of fresh veggies and fruits, they usually only buy the same 3 things because we know she'll eat them and can't afford to pay for what she won't eat. With a variety from the CSA, they've been able to introduce her to new vegetables without the risk and have involved her in opening their vegetable surprise each Tuesday. A client who receives a donated share picking up in St. Albans has recently lost access to reliable transportation due to needs for significant car repair. She is able to walk to her pickup location, which allows her both to save money and on groceries and not to sacrifice produce when she's walking to pick up items at a grocery store farther away. I have cared for an individual with an intellectual disability and physical limitations in my home for over a decade. He proudly wears his Blue Heron Farm shirt and cap every Tuesday through CSA season, and he calls BHF our farm. Christine and Adam have gifted him a rainbow of Blue Heron Farm shirts so he can be sure he has a clean one every drop-off day. He's the best cheerleader. When his SSTA driver picks him up for his day program and he's wearing his farm shirt, he jokes, "You gonna give me some veggies when I bring you home?" And my roommate invariably replies, "Yes, food is for sharing," something Christine and her crew have helped teach him. These are only 3 of the many individuals and their families whose lives have been improved by affordable access to organic, local, and fresh food grown, sold, and shared by Blue Heron Farm. This improvement would not have been possible without Christine, Adam, Sadie, and Delia, seeing their roles as farmers as much more than growers, but as a vital part of the community they are part of. They have done this consistently despite COVID, climate change, personal illness, and very difficult growing seasons. I had a professor who used to say, life is hard, and we just have to help each other. The Blue Heron Farm family does just that. In turn, the systems and resources available to farmers in our state need to help them so that they can keep growing. Not just amazing vegetables and the crunchiest cucumbers I have ever eaten, but the momentum of neighbor helping neighbor that their work embodies and inspires. In 2020, our farm signed up to take EBT 3 Squares, Vermont. We have an EBT machine and we can take folks' EBT cards to pay for vegetables right on the farm for vegetables, meat, and fruit produced on our farm. We are also able to take 3 Squares at our local farmers market in the Champlain Islands on Wednesdays and Saturdays. We have been taking 3 Squares as a farmers market since 2008. The addition of Crop Cash and Crop Cash Plus has been phenomenal. Children hand me their tokens for a cucumber or a pint of cherry tomatoes. Their moms hand me Crop Cash for the bags of potatoes they can now afford to buy with that extra help. Another's mother's eyes grew wide and wet when she knew that she could buy our pastured pork, our beef, and organic chicken and lamb and burgers from the person next to me because their Crop Cash Plus made their food dollars go so much further. Folks love that they can support our farm and our community with their food dollars. 3 Squares, Crop Cash, and Crop Cash Plus support the whole Vermont community, the eater and the farmer. It is a double investment, a double win. I spread word to folks about 3 Squares and Crop Cash to my community. Every single person who accesses this at the farmer's market comes back again each week to stock up on healthy local food. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had a significant number of pandemic EBT purchases. Many families were coming to the market and we were there with food and community for them. Many of those community members are still coming to the farmers market, even though they do not qualify for pandemic EBT anymore. The Crop Cash and Crop Cash Plus program brings Vermonters to farmers markets who otherwise would not come because they are unable to afford what is available there. In conclusion, thank you for your time and all the good work you all do for Vermont's farmers and eaters. Please support Nova Vermont's request for $500,000 in base funding to strengthen Vermont farm viability, and address food security by sustaining these proven programs, Crop Cash Plus, and Vermont Farm Share Program. Thank you for listening, and you can feel free to ask me any questions.
Representative Nelson.
Your Farming in Grand Isle,
Yes.
a great place with great soils. You mind me asking how large and what diversity of crops you're able to grow there?
Sure.
Because you have the longest growing season
do,
in the
banana
state.
belt.
I'm up in Derby, so I'm envious. There's still plowing snow and you got stuff coming out of the ground.
Right, right. So the lake keeps us warmer in the fall, but keeps us a little colder in the
Yes, it
spring. And we have a 30-acre farm that we bought and conserved with the Vermont Land Trust back in 2012. We've been farming on the same land since 2004. And we have certified organic vegetables, flowers, herbs, and sheep. We have about a flock of 40 sheep that graze around our vegetable farm to help rebuild the soil. We have about 5 Jersey cows for some milk for our family, and beef. And then we have a couple of pigs we raise each year. So it's a truly diversified farm with each input. We used to have chickens, but raising organic chickens and the price of organic grain is just way too high. And we've had way too much loss with that. So we had to step away for that for a little while.
So, if I may, how do you, that's a big undertaking, I understand. Where do you get your compost and how do you? I mean, I'm sure you're using compost.
Yeah, so we get our compost from our farm. We lay it down in the fall. We have to practice organic standards. So we use that, and we also get our potting soil and any other necessary compost from Vermont Compost Company here in Montpelier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
We grow all of our seed starts in Vermont Compost Fort V.
They do really well, don't they?
They do.
I understand they have their product goes to Fenway Park.
Yep. We've used it for 21 years.
I know the trucker that pulls it into Fenway Park.
Representative Boswell.
Yeah, so I guess I just wanted to clarify. I just realized when you're talking about these asks, the $500,000 and these different programs. I mean, we're voting today on the budget adjustment.
Yep.
Are you talking about the budget adjustment? Or are you talking about our budget for next year when we're planning ahead? Because the time is extraordinarily short if it's for the budget adjustment today.
For FY 26.
So next year, but
Okay, so you're planning ahead. So your ask is,
Yes.
really, it's not even this year's budget. You're looking at
Yes.
next year. Got it.
we will be, I think, getting a formal letter from each organization. We'll have more time to take testimony.
Okay.
too.
All
So
right.
this is a good introduction, and please, we should ask as many questions as we want to understand, the stories on the ground, but we'll have more chance to talk about it. And
Great.
yes, fortunately, it's not a.
Oh my God.
You have a farm stand? to the
Yes.
Farm?
We do, yes.
I swear I'm gonna road trip around the state. Years.
We would welcome you.
And see, I want to see it. I'm a dairy farmer.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
different scale. and-
yeah.
And conventional, but I appreciate everything agriculture.
Thank you.
Love to see it.
Would love to see you at our farm stand on Monday nights. We have CSA pickup. You can meet our members, and you can come to our farmers market in the islands, which is on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So
South Hero.
South Huron on Wednesdays, 3 to 6, and then on Grand Isle on 10 to 2 on Saturdays.
Is that near the Hero House or?
No, it's South Hero is at behind St. Rose Church. And
Okay.
then Saturdays is at St. Joseph's Church, right next to Emmons grocery store.
Okay.
Yeah.
The markets, most farmers markets, outdoor markets are seasonal.
Yes.
Is there anything that's carried on?
We do. Our farmers market this year went all the way to Christmas. So we did it almost every Saturday from the middle of May until the end of December, which was amazing. And next coming year, we're talking about adding that Saturday after Thanksgiving. That was the only Saturday we didn't have on.
Representative Lipsky.
Question about
Yes.
your farm stand.
Yeah.
Is 100% of what you sell at your farm stand produced on the farm, or can you supplement from other neighboring farms for product?
Well, our farm stand, so at our farm stand, we just sell what's on what we grow. Yeah, and that is just important to us. So,
I believe they can sell, as long as they sell 51%,
Right.
I believe they can have their own product. And then they could like bring in beef from
Right.
somebody else
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
buffalo meat from up in Derby or something like that, if they so choose.
yeah, we just choose to just stick with our own because there is enough. There's a local farm store, Arbor Farm Market in South Hero that people can go to. There's a farm stand in North Hero that has multiple different things at Savage Gardens, and we just do our own stuff. We have enough to do and try to coordinate everybody.
Representative O'Brien.
Can you just explain with farm share again, how it works with, you being the farmer, you've got the farm stand and you do CSAs?
Yes.
And then how NOFA is involved and how that sort of triangle between customers and you and NOFA works?
Sure. So our farm stand is not as busy as most farm stands because we're kind of off the beaten track, off of Route 2. So we don't see a ton of people except for bikers and stuff. So we really focus on our farmers market and our CSA model. And so with the farm share program, people apply, like you can go to our website and you can look and you can click on if you need a financial assistance and you can click to see, go to NOFA's and apply for theirs. It's like a 1-page application. It is super easy and I help people walk through it and they can apply for anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of a share to be subsidized from NOFA. And the money for that is really tight and quick. And so I try to let people know on February 1st, it's open, apply, because the money goes by really quickly. Last year, I had 15 people who needed financial aid and only 6 got financial aid from NOFA because they just ran out of money. And these were families in my community. So on our CSA, we asked for donations for the farm share program. And we also ask for a food program, Food for Thought in South Hero for a school lunch program in the summertime. So people can donate to that and we can allocate monies towards that. And then there's money that's just not covered. And then that is kind of like our donation, I guess, financial. I don't come to farming with capitalism in mind. I come to farming and I'm not a trust funder. Like we live farmer's market to farmer's market here. But there's always extra food and like financially, like a bank wouldn't be happy with how much like we were giving out into the world. If I was to put a number on it. We were giving out $3,287 if you were to put it on paper, because there was no other donations or farm share programs, but we couldn't not feed our neighbors who came and said, hey, I need some help.
The farm share you have to apply for.
Yes, you have to apply for, and you have to apply for it quickly because the money runs out. There is not enough money for the need that's in our state.
I want to ask NOFA, not necessarily today, but just to tell us more about how that works and how they distribute what is available.
Yeah.
And it's finite, whether it's truly first come, first
It is.
serve, or whether there's geographic considerations. But just because I want to be sure we have also plenty of time to hear from our other witnesses, unless there are any other questions. I'll say thank you.
Just one quick one.
Yeah.
Your daughter's was on the Vermont Youth Council.
Yes, Sadie.
Oh, okay, there you are. Yeah. So you were in here before, weren't you?
No.
Oh, somehow your name came up. I
And
can't.
she's a page too. She was a page a
That's right.
few years ago.
Generational advocates here.
For Vermont. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's move on. Ilam. Welcome.
Thank you for having me today. My name is Elam Esiba. I'm a Winooski resident and also school board member at the Winooski School, and also work as a para educator at the CVU High School. I'm here today to talk about Three Squares and its impact on food security in Vermont. And I want to ask you to pass legislation to opt into SNAP restaurant meal program with funding of 75,000 for startup costs and 75 for staff position within the DCF to administer the program. And to also support NOFA VT request for 500 in base funding to sustain Crop Cash and Crop Cash Plus and Farm Share, which help families access healthy food while supporting Vermont farmers. As a mother of four, I know firsthand how difficult it is to qualify for Three Square Vermont and then make the limited benefit last. Even if you're lucky enough to get the approval for Three Square Vermont based on income, you might not get much for the month. So you have to work within that limit. So you might get lucky to receive even 150 per month on 3 squares per month, which barely covers groceries for a single week, let alone a month. Many families, including mine, struggle to balance the cost of nutritious food with other essential expenses. Programs like Crop Cash help families stretch the benefit while allowing us to choose fresh, healthy local food. This program has helped me buy fresh, local, organic produce at the farmers market, ensuring my kids have access to the nutrition they need. It also supports Vermonter farmers, strengthening our local food system and knowing where your food coming from, and going to the farmers market, getting to know your farmers, who grows your food, and interact with them, bring your children to learn about how food are growing in Vermont and meet the people that are actually growing the food. And also, I had the opportunity to participate in the Crop Cash Plus, which allows me to use the Crop Cash coupon for other staple food at the farmers market, not just produce, but to purchase dairy, eggs, bread, things that the Crop Cash would not cover. If Crop Cash were to reinstate, it will provide even greater food security for family like mine. This program also helps food vendors who sell food at the farmers market. They can use the token. So in the Crop Cash, you can receive the Crop Cash for the vegetables and fruit, and the token helps people that prepare food. So people can use the token to buy prepared meal at the farmers market. Another major gap in our food system is for people who rely on 3 squares but don't always have the ability to cook. As a caterer and a community member, I see how challenging it can be for seniors, people with disability, or those experiencing homelessness to prepare meal. The restaurant meal program will allow eligible Vermonters to purchase affordable prepared meal when cooking is not possible. The restaurant meal program will allow them to use their benefit to purchase hot, ready-to-eat meal, giving them dignity, flexibility, and better access to nutritious food. This program could transform lives by reducing food insecurity and providing dignity and choice for those who need it most. I urge you to take action to strengthen food security in Vermont by passing legislation to opt into SNAP restaurant meal program with funding of 75,000 for startup costs, and also supporting NOFA VT request for 100 in base funding to sustain Crop Cash and Crop Cash Plus and Farm Share, which help family access healthy food while supporting Vermont farmers. These programs are not just about food. They are about equity, dignity, and resilience for our community. I appreciate your time and your commitment to making Vermont a place where everyone has access to fresh, healthy, and prepared meals when they need them. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. As far as the restaurant meals program goes, we haven't heard a whole lot about it, but I believe that there's going to be a bill introduced that would instruct the state to opt into this program that is optional for states to participate in. Somebody can correct me if I say something wrong. And as you've just mentioned, there would be funding necessary to sort of start things, to have a staff person to run it, and maybe some technology or infrastructure. I'm not quite sure what. This would also be next year's budget. So this is not something that need to worry about for.
But there's federal money, like a match too for it?
I don't know if there's any federal money or if it's simply saying that SNAP or Three Squares participants now would have the option of making those purchases.
I can probably share a little bit more about it when I sit down and testify.
All right, thank you.
I just
Brian.
had a quick question because we can get back to universal school meals. I wondered, are your kids getting universal school meals? And when
Yes, yes, they are.
how's that going?
That's great, because you don't know, so a lot of, Winooski, where I come from, we are mostly immigrants that are mostly live there, and they're really having tough time. So this is really helpful to having each case have a meal, because when they go home, they might not have a meal for the day or even the week or month. So the universal school meal is actually helpful to feed kids when they come to school.
All right, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you about the universal school.
Hi, again, for the record, my name is Carrie Staler and I work for Vermont Food Bank and I live in Linden. And maybe before I start with my testimony, we can talk a little bit about the restaurant meals questions that you had. There is going to be a bill introduced for restaurant meals if it hasn't already been introduced. And that program essentially takes the Three Squares benefits that already exist on people's EBT cards and gives them added flexibility. It is only for those qualifying populations, so folks who are unhoused, folks who are disabled, and people who are over 60. And it would allow them to purchase prepared food at participating restaurants. The funding for FY26, which will be associated with this bill and the big bill budget, would be for startup costs and then ongoing technical assistance, particularly for restaurants to be able to participate. And I think the vision for the state of Vermont is to make sure that our small local restaurants can participate in this program. It's not just a program that chain restaurants or large regional restaurant chains can participate in. So that there's like a EBT swipe card piece and some technology and pieces like that. And that's sort of where those startup costs come in. But otherwise, the program utilizes the same federal funds that Three Squares Vermont already uses on people's EBT cards. It just allows flexibility for people who have, life situations that make it difficult to prepare their own food or to purchase food at the grocery store and then prepare it in whatever space is available to them. You heard from Francis. He was living in a tent. It's really hard to prepare a meal in a tent if you have to buy a head of cabbage at the grocery store or a box of pasta, right? Unprepared foods. And right now, the federal program disallows the purchase of hot prepared food from grocery stores. So that is a federal limitation, but the restaurant meals program is the option that the federal government offers to states to allow people to acquire, hot prepared food.
So the admin to stand that program up would be at Food Bank or NOFA or DCF?
DCF.
It is, okay.
Yeah. And Hunger Free Vermont is the organization who's really supporting that request and knows most about it. I just kind of have heard all the briefings. I'm just a conduit.
Representative Burt.
Thanks, Chairman. And you're saying basically the restaurant meal program is just creating more flexibility. It's the same amount of funding available to that person with their EBT card, but it's just giving them more choices.
Yes.
And it's federal funding in either case, and we're not supplementing it.
That is
It's entirely different from.
That's a different conversation. Yeah, this is not to add additional funding to people's cards or do anything like that. This is just to have funding for our state agencies to be able to support essentially the restaurant piece. And they are looking at it as an economic development opportunity because it allows those restaurants, like you've heard from the farmers markets and from the farms here, it's really similar for restaurants, right? It allows restaurants to also serve folks who maybe wouldn't have the cash resources to utilize that, but do need that resource. So.
I don't know.
Please, yeah, go ahead.
Just during the storm, not this past year, but the previous year, and maybe even this year, certain counties or all of Vermont, if you had EBT and we were declared a disaster, you were able to get hot meals with your EBT card at farmers market. So it has happened in our state before over the last 2 years at different times, but that's from the federal. And so this would open it up to more. But in case of emergency, the federal let for like a span of time, like 2 months. But because our small caterers and prepared food people at farmers market were able to accept EBT. So we have seen this before in our state on the federal level.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's great to know. I didn't.
I just wonder how funky it is. Like right now, if I went to Hunger Mountain and got, a bunch of produce and like a bowl of soup, does the soup not, I can't buy that with EBT?
Totally just led with EBT. Yeah. And another, just so you all know how this works in a grocery store setting, like you can get any food you want that's not prepared, right? You could get rice and noodles and whatever it is that you need for your meal, produce, the whole nine. And you ring it all up at the same time, right? So your soup would go on that conveyor belt along with your actual grocery purchases. And the computer system they have identifies what you can pay for with EBT and what you can't. So it really looks like a seamless transaction. Like if someone is behind you in line, you just swipe one card and then you swipe another. They don't know that that's what you're purchasing, but you would have to have some other way to pay for that soup in line.
Representative Nelson, then did you?
I do actually have.
You wanted to share something.
Go ahead, let her go first.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Don't have a ton of time, so I will abbreviate what I was going to say to you, and you have my testimony in written form. Sidonia has it. So I just want to go back to a point that Joanna made at the beginning, and it's that 3 Squares Vermont is just one part of the food safety net that we have available to people here in the state. And I think that that's the importance of 3 Squares Awareness Day, is that this is a program that meshes together with other available resources for people, so that they can meet their own needs in the ways that are most flexible for them. 3 Squares is one that maximizes a lot of federal funding. A lot of our other programs are community-based and are not, able to receive that same federal support. I think that's where Vermont Food Bank and our partners come in. We step in when that, resource like 3 Squares or other resources in communities or the farms that are contributing food to people's meals can't keep up with the need. I want to underscore that we are hearing from almost all of our network partners right now that they cannot keep up with the need. That is why there is a proposal and a request before you for $5 million for Vermont Food Bank. That is broken up into 3 pieces. 1.75 is for responsive readiness funding to deal with climate-based disasters that are happening over and over in our state, to help us all be more prepared for that, and to help food be a consideration at the community level when those crises happen. Right now, it is communities alone trying to figure that out on the fly. The other 3.25 of that is to support the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters program. I introduced it a little bit before, but Vermonters Feeding Vermonters is essentially a farm to institution program where farms sell food to Vermont Food Bank that they grow, and we redistribute it through this network of 225 organizations. We also offer grants to our local partners. There were a few of them here today who receive that grant money and then buy directly from their own farms. And so it's sort of a multifaceted way to also get farm food into communities in an efficient way that works for both the community partners and the farms. And the other piece of that, I think that's important for you all to hear today, and I know you all had Dr. Niles in earlier to talk about her data. There are really different experiences that people are having, people who sort of land in that food insecurity profile versus people who do not. And the folks who are food insecure are people who are really having trouble bouncing back from these multiple shocks that happen and have happened. The past 5 years have been really tumultuous. I think many of you would agree. And that is where this community level support is needed and continues to grow. And is the challenge that we're all experiencing. There isn't a lot of additional capacity in that system. Vermont doesn't have a lot of huge manufacturers who have extra food and are like, oh, hey, just bring another truck to our facility this month. Same with the New England region as a whole. So I think one of the things that you can do
with us as partners and here in the State House is to make sure that we continue to strengthen the programs that we have, like Three Squares Vermont, like Crop Cash and Farm Share, adding the flexibility of restaurant meals and working with the food bank and our partners to make sure that people have that, retail level access in communities like yours all over the state. And that's really our request to you, is to think broadly about the system and how all of these pieces fit together in a puzzle that makes people's lives work, because everyone's life is complicated. And we all need options and choices to make it work for each of us. And that's really what these sort of requests ahead of you are doing. And I do briefly, Mary had to step out. She was here from the V4As. And there is also a Meals on Wheels request before you. And that really is for that same prepared food conversation that we just had about restaurant meals, but for people who are homebound and need those meals delivered to them. It's a really critical resource for the state. And there's the opportunity to draw down more federal funds. So that's another important piece of really making a robust food system for folks. So thank you for your time. That's all I have to say. I'm happy to take questions.
Representative Nelson?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about the universal school meals
Yeah.
program within, which I've been on the school board for 14 years and still on it, so. And, I love that we removed the barriers and getting all the children in all the families enrolled in the universal school meals. What are your all, I'm sure you're all in favor of it.
Hugely in favor of it. Do I have 2 minutes to share my own?
I think we can give you 2 minutes.
Okay, so I will share with you my own personal universal school meal story. So in 2019, my family moved to Linden. We lived here in Montpelier, and we bought a farm and moved to Linden. And the Linden Town School had been a universal school meals school before the pandemic. They had qualified for universal school meals. And then because of a 1% adjustment in the they use the Census Bureau population data about how much money people make on average. And there was like a 1% shift. And that school went from a universal school meals school to people had to fill out the forms and you could only qualify. And my family at the time, we're pretty modest income, we're starting to farm.
Land rich, cash poor.
Yep, land rich, cash poor. And we filled out the paperwork and the school secretary called me and she said, "Are you sure your numbers are right?" And I was like, "Well, those are the numbers I have." She goes, "You are ineligible by $900. She's like, "Do you want to double check?" And I was like, "Well, that's my salary." And I had just gotten a 1% raise at work, which had I declined my 1% raise, I would have been able to have universal school meals for my school. So I sat down and I did the math. And I was like, how much does it cost to buy breakfast and lunch for my kids at school for a year? Ready? $900. And it was really frustrating. There wasn't anything I could do.
That was then, not
And-
now.
Yeah, and that was then, not now. And that's what we would go back to. My kids were embarrassed. Everybody else in the school got meals. I'm going to cry. But it was different. It was different for them and they didn't want to be different.
That's feed all the kids with equity and parity.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So universal school meals, big yes. Thanks.
Something to say about the universal meal. Now, I used to live in Barrie, so I went to Spalding High School. At that time, there was another universal meal, so you have to apply, just like you say. And either you get a discount or you get the qualified for them. So I was able to get qualified, but that's, like she said, it's an embarrassment. Like some people get free meal or you get picked on, oh, you're getting free meal. So some kids are getting picked on because of that situation. So how this came out to be feeding everybody, depending on the qualification or not, really is saving kids from being bullied, being picked on. So everybody can get a food. You don't know who's poor, who's rich, and all that. So I think we should fight for university. It doesn't matter who we're feeding at the school.
Well, before we all start.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you guys.
Thank you so much for coming in and sharing stories, sharing the requests. we'll be talking about it more. Sure.
Thank you all so much for your time and for your attention. It's
We're going to take a break. Wait, why don't we take